What's going on, folks? Welcome on a cold, windy Thursday afternoon. It's Charlie from the Mazz Bads Show coming at you with a little breath of fresh Jets quickie. Season's over. We're just going to take a look around at the head coach search, the GM search, a little less than the GM search. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm plugged into every guy sitting in the front office around the league. Hopefully we'll have a full episode by tomorrow. Had some stuff going on with, the homies. Had some things today and this week that couldn't record, so hopefully looking to get something out tomorrow. But like I said, for now, we'll just do something like this just real quick. Just take a peek, and I'll give my takes on some of these guys they're interviewing. So I'll start with GM. I mean, when it comes to, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know Alec Halaby's or actually that's really the only one I don't know on here. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, wait, I just noticed that this is either a typo or the Jets interviewed Matt Nagy for the general manager job. It was reported he interviewed for the head coaching job, but on the website, the Jets team website, it's listed as a general manager interview. That's really interesting. Okay, forget it. Never mind. Mike Borgonzi, a guy from the Chiefs, I would not be upset with. If you're plucking from a successful long-term organization, that's always a good idea. Louis Riddick, no. Jim Nagy, no. John Robinson, that's the guy who traded A.J. Brown on the Titans. Thomas Dimitroff would be cool with that. He seems like a guy who's very forward-thinking, would help bring the Jets into the 21st century in terms of analytics, because we all know the Jets are kind of behind in things like that. So that would be really cool to have a general manager who's real forward-thinking and futuristic in that sense, because Joe Douglas, his staff was tiny. Whether that was his fault, whether that was Woody Johnson's fault, up for debate. But regardless, a fresh reset in the front office is going to be so nice and so refreshing for this team and the fan base, because it's just been too much of the same crap for the last 6 years. So, general managers, I would be really happy with a guy from Detroit. Ray Agnew's a name you might have heard before. He's an assistant GM over there. Came over from the Rams. And then a senior executive over in Detroit, John Dorsey, who helped rebuild the Browns, the Chiefs. He's been around the league for a really long time, helped scout Aaron Rodgers. I'd be really happy with a guy like him coming over. Maybe not even as the GM. Especially, Agnew, he would be a GM candidate. Dorsey's a guy who I could see them hiring as sort of a consultant or senior executive, just to see, make sure things run well for maybe a first-time GM. But we're going to switch over to the head coaching candidates, because these I'm a little bit more read up on. I have more takes for guys like this. So we'll start from the top here. Thank you, Jet Press, for compiling this list, because otherwise, the one on the Jets website was not up to date. I think this is just not only guys they've interviewed, but guys they've also requested to interview. So we'll start from the top. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator, Buffalo Bills. Joe Brady's interesting. He's been around the league, been around college football. He was the offensive coordinator, I believe, for the 2019 LSU team that won the national championship. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all those guys. And then he came over to the NFL, was the offensive coordinator for the Panthers under Matt Rule, and totally shit the bed. Did not coach great in the NFL. Ended up in Buffalo as the pass game coordinator, and now he's doing a hell of a job with Allen ever since they fired their guy last year and promoted him. Their points per game, yards per game, you name it, Josh Allen's stats have all been up. Brady, when the kitchen's full, when he's got the tools, he's great. When there's nothing there, he really isn't able to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that the Jets are full of chicken shit, but there's still enough there that I don't think he is experienced enough to take this job and run with it and win. So we'll push Joe Brady off to the side. Brian Flores, who is now the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. I guess I'll start with Mike Vrabel. So he was obviously the number one candidate, right? Number one. Everyone wanted him. Winning coach, has the track record. knows what he's doing, has the experience. He's going to be the Patriots coach. It's unfortunate, but it's true. He's not coming. So he was my number one. My new number one might be Brian Flores. I'm a huge fan of him and what he's done ever since he got fired from the Dolphins. Now, there were a lot of questions coming out of Miami after his first 10 years as a head coach. Can he work with young players? Can he find an offensive coordinator? All this stuff. And he spent the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, of course, he was suing the league, but he spent time in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in football. Spent the last 2 years with the Vikings, with Kevin O'Connell, who I think is one of the best coaches in football and one of the best run organizations in football. Made some great, hopefully some great offensive coordinator connections with guys under Kevin O'Connell. Maybe he brings a guy in like Josh McCown as the OC. I think that would be my number one option as of right now. Taking Mike Vrabel out of the equation would be Brian Flores, head coach, Josh McCown, Uncle Josh coming back to the Jets as a coach instead of a backup quarterback as the offensive coordinator. And I think that would be a recipe for success. Now, you'd have to worry about McCown getting plucked in a few years because he's had some chances at a head coaching job. If you remember, almost 4 years ago, I want to say, he was just about ready to be the Houston Texans head coach when the NFL stepped in because Brian Flores was suing, and then they kind of forced the Texans' hands into hiring Lovie Smith. That's conjecture. That's not confirmed. That's just my read of the situation and how a lot of people read it. So, I don't know. I think that would be the number one best case scenario for the Jets right now, especially after the Vrabel stuff. Aaron Glenn, a close second. Former player, doing a fantastic job as the coordinator in Detroit this year. They have been so banged up, so injured. They've lost so many starters, and yet the defense barely loses a step. I mean, yeah, there's been a few games here and there where they got their doors blown off. I mean, the Buffalo game you think about, they will let up a lot of points from time to time, but Aaron Glenn's always got them playing hard, and I think there's something to be said about a former player coming to coach your franchise. I mean, you see Dan Campbell. He's a former player. D'Amico Ryans, the guys buy in for him. So Aaron Glenn, I think, is a close second for me, just as a leader and a head coach. And I think he's going to get a job this cycle, but we'll see if that's with the Jets. Brian Griese, that's a big no for me. I mean, maybe an offensive coordinator role, but not as head coach. No. Talked about Josh McCown, Matt Nagy. So Matt Nagy's. I think he's a better coach than people give him credit for. I know how things flamed out in Chicago, but he did win Coach of the Year and made the playoffs with Mitchell Trubisky, which is fairly impressive. I think he will get another shot eventually, but I don't want the Jets to hire a retread like him. It would not energize the fan base whatsoever. Brian Flores and Aaron Glenn, it's not as much energy as Mike Vrabel, but I think it's still a level up than a guy like Matt Nagy. All right, Ron Rivera. He's a former head coach. He's been around the league for a really long time. Panthers, Commanders, as it says right here. I would be super on board to Ron Rivera as defensive coordinator if you're pairing him up with a first-time head coach. Let's say, for example, Josh McCown. You hire Josh McCown as your head coach, and you say, Ron Rivera, you're going to be the defensive coordinator / assistant head coach. Very similar to how Sean McVay had Wade Phillips when he started out in Los Angeles with the Rams. He needed a guy that he needed a sounding board that had done it before, had the experience, and I think that would be a pretty solid pairing. It's always good to be a year early on head coach hirings than a year late, and Josh McCown might be that year early kind of guy. I think I skipped over Vance Joseph. I'm good. I mean, seems like a good defensive coach, but we'll keep it at that. Rex Ryan. All right, I gotta preface this with saying I love Rex Ryan. He's he's probably the best Jets coach of my lifetime. Is the Jets best coach of my lifetime? Please no. Rex is a blowhard. All right, okay, hold on. No, he is a blowhard, but he's just I don't doubt that he loves the Jets and he wants to bring them back. And yes, they haven't made the playoffs since he was the head coach, but he's been out of the league since 2016. He's on ESPN radio this week saying, they're asking him, what's your staff going to look like? And he says, I don't know, but I'm going to build the best staff anyone's ever seen. No, Rex, that's not how it works. Who is your offensive coordinator? Who's running the defense? Is it going to be Anthony Lynn and Mike Pettin again? No, thank you. Everyone loves those first 2 years of Rex Ryan, but no one seems to remember how it flamed out, how it ended. Rex Ryan might give you an instant jolt of energy, but it's gonna peter off and wane off, and it's not going to be good down the line. I think if you wanted to bring Rex in, the move was to hand him the Jeff Saturday type role. I'm sure people heard Mazz talking about this after they fired Robert Saleh in October, but yeah, if you wanted to bring Rex in and give him an interview, give him a chance, cool, whatever. If you wanted to give him an actual audition at the job, they should have handed him the head coach position after they fired Saleh and kept everybody else where they were and ran with it. But they didn't do that because I guess that would have been one step too far into the circus. Bobby Slowick. He was a hot name last cycle. Offensive coordinator for the Texans. Didn't get any of those jobs. And his stock's a little down this year because the Texans offense is taking a step back. CJ Stroud's taking a step back. So I'm going to say no to Bobby Slowick. I mean, maybe in a few years, once he has some more experience under his belt, he could be an option. But as of right now, as of 2025, he is not an option. Arthur Smith is interesting. I mean, you see people, the name Arthur Smith comes up and people just hate it. He's an okay coach. I mean, got a lot out of Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee. In Atlanta, they were always competitive. They just never had a quarterback. And he did have some head-scratching personnel choices about, never getting Kyle Pitts the ball, giving Algier more snaps than Bijan Robinson. Arthur Smith said no to the Jets this past offseason, so we're going to say no to Arthur Smith this season. Steve Spags, defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Steve Spagnuolo, good coach, former head coach a long time ago. I'm going to go with no. He's one of the best assistant head coaches in football. I mean, the Chiefs' defense is great every year. But I think he's a good defensive coordinator, and they'll leave it at that. The only way I can see Spags getting hired is literally someone just trying to poach off the Chiefs' staff to try and weaken them, which could actually work. I mean, if you take out Spagnuolo, does the Chiefs' defense regress? Who knows? Jeff Ulbricht's going to get an interview. No, thank you. One of the worst coaches I've ever seen in my lifetime. Mike Vrabel. Rest in peace, the dream, man. That would have been sick. He's going to New England. He's going to New England. Darren Rizzi. I think he might be the long-term. He could be a potential special teams replacement, special teams coach replacement for Brant Boyer right now. He's done a great job in the interim in New Orleans. He's got him fighting. They only got the doors blown off like once or twice as with him as the interim. So if you want to bring him in as the new special teams coach, I'm all for it. So down here, yeah, Ben Johnson. He's not going to interview here. Does not want to be here. Has no interest in being here. So you know what? We have no interest in you. I mean, who knows? Maybe his mentor, Adam Gase, told him to stay away from the Jets if he wants his career to be long and prosperous, but they can both go kick rocks. So the one name on here that I'm not seeing that I would really want the Jets to interview is the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen. He's done a fantastic job with Baker Mayfield this year and the entirety of the Bucs offense. I mean, they were good on offense last year, but this year they kicked it up another notch. After Dave Canales goes to go coach the Panthers, Liam Cohen has this team running the football like they're the Baltimore Ravens or something like that. Baker Mayfield is throwing dots. And he's got a few more interceptions than he did last year. But Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, the tight end, I can't remember his name at the moment. Everyone's been balling down there. And I really think he's got what it takes. He comes from the Sean McVay Los Angeles Rams tree. Only 1 year as an offensive coordinator, so the experience part isn't there. But that's one of those guys where you hire him as the first-time head coach, and then you bring in Steve Spagnuolo as the defensive coordinator or / assistant head coach, or the Ron Rivera as the assistant head coach, and you run from there. So that's where we're at as of January 9th, 2025 with the Jets. Who knows when they'll actually hire somebody. I think at this point, if Vrabel was still in the mix, they would have hired him first and then gone after a GM. I think at this point, they're going to hire a GM first and then let him maybe not run the show, but he's going to have input on picking the head coach. So when that happens, it's going to be emergency podcast time. I'm going to drop everything I'm doing and come sit down right here and talk into this camera about what I think. And when that day comes, it'll be great. Because it's either going to be a lot of fun or a lot of fun ranting about it and being pissed off. But in the meantime, hopefully, I will see you tomorrow for a full Mazz and Bads show. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully. We'll see.